Welcome to the REI Diamond Interview, your source for real estate investment jewels of wisdom with Dan Breslin.
Welcome to the REI Diamond Show with Rick Thompson on building green, high-performance new construction. I'm Dan Breslin, host of the REI Diamond Show, and each week I invite another high-caliber investor to share their unique experience as it relates to real estate investing. Before I introduce Rick, I'd like to begin by thanking you for listening to the REI Diamond Show. I'm amazed when I meet listeners at our networking events in Philadelphia and Chicago at the high level of experience they possess. Of course, there are a lot of people who are just getting started that also listen to the show, but I think that what's really great about the show is that they are valuable jewels of wisdom for real estate investors and professionals at a wide range of experience levels. So beginners, intermediate, and even, high volume investors all have commented and remarked back to me that they're interested and they're keeping in touch with the things that we're talking about. In case you didn't already know, the REI Diamond Show is an all-content platform. I don't do webinars with sales pages. I don't do any affiliate marketing. I don't offer mentoring, even though people have approached me. We do not have any sales pitch, so there will not be at the end of this or any of the shows a sales pitch or a call to action or anything that a lot of people often keep their guard up for. The reason I do this show is to add value to my network by providing deep, content-rich interviews of high-caliber real estate investors, developers, practitioners, etc. As a result of doing this show, I've had the pleasure of meeting and subsequently building business relationships with many people in the Philadelphia, Chicago, and Florida markets where I operate diamond equity investments. And just as an FYI, I do personally receive and answer all of my own emails. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, that is the best way to reach out. I know this was a bit of a tangent, but I've had a few people ask me why I'm doing the show, so I thought I'd clear this up now. I understand how valuable your time is, and when you invest an hour in listening to the REI Diamond Show, you can listen with full knowledge that I am conscious about doing everything in my power to make sure your return on that time investment can be measured in valuable jewels of wisdom. Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. This week's guest is Rick Thompson. Rick is a partner in Brightleaf Homes, a high-performance green home builder here in Illinois. I recently met Rick at a networking event where he was sharing his philosophy on new construction. As soon as Rick began describing his company and their product, I knew I'd have to invite him on the show. I followed up. I gave him a call. I had the pleasure of touring a few Brightleaf Homes prior to recording this episode with Rick, and the first thing I noticed was the level of intelligent thought which was obvious in the design and construction of the home. We toured one completed house and one currently under construction, giving me insight into the finished product and also the level of quality of the build beneath the walls. I've been through a lot of new construction properties since the age of 8 years old. My dad used to haul me out and we would do the electrical work on new construction of the houses being built in the late 80s and the 90s, through that era. Even up until recently, I've been in and out of many new construction homes, and this was a very different experience for me. I currently live in a condo on Lake Michigan, and I love the view, but one of the items on my life's wish list is to design and build a house for myself. And after seeing and walking through the Brightleaf Homes, I now have a clear vision for the quality level of my own dream house when the day arrives and I have it built. Enough about me, though. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Dan, thanks. Great to be here.
We met last week, we had lunch, and one of the things I'm just going to touch on before we get into the home construction and the history and all that, you strike me as a constant student. You had made some mention about reading and doing some things to sharpen yourself mentally, and I really think that's important for people to notice. So as we get into the interview and you start answering these questions, people will understand, can you just give me an idea of the information diet that you've committed to in order to make yourself an expert in your industry, Rick, before we get started?
Yeah, so one thing that I've learned over the years is that to be successful in anything that you're doing, what you really need to do is just read. So for about 2 hours a day, I like to split my time up between reading about building, reading about sustainability, real estate, and then I always pick a book at a time to dedicate at least an hour to read. And that could be about anything to help improve my business or help improve myself. And reading, to me, it used to kind of be an afterthought. So I think, let me get my daily work done during the day, and then maybe if I have time, I'll read. But now I make sure that's the priority, and I make sure that that is one of the habits that's just integrated into my daily schedule day in and day out.
So how long have you been doing this, and have you noticed a difference in your own thought processes, communication skill, et cetera, since the beginning of that, Rick?
So this strict regimen of reading, I'd say I've had in place for about a year now. I've always read, and I've always kind of tried to squeeze in time to read, but now I make it a priority, and it certainly allows me to have a lot more knowledge, whether it comes to real estate, whether it comes to building, whether it comes to demographics, whether it comes to marketing, any of those, you need to know about those things.
Yeah, and me personally too, I think I don't have a prescription of the amount of time, but I read every day, and I started a very heavy information diet. That's listening to people's podcasts.
Oh, absolutely.
Buying programs. I've spent $1,000 on different people's programs for this, for that, home building, real estate courses. So I'm like an avid learner, and I have been for about the last 3 or 4 years. And ironically, I can look back at the tax returns for those years, and they keep on growing and growing and growing. So I don't know. Is there a correlation? I'll let you make the decision on that. Enough of our knowledge tangent. So why don't you give us, the Reader's Digest history of how you got started in the real estate business, and then what led up to the point of new construction, and then give us kind of an idea of what the Brightleaf Homes company looks like right now.
Okay. It's kind of a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. But I remember even since I was in college, I planned on being a lawyer for a long time. I was a political science major because they had pre-law classes at the college I was going to. And I thought I'd be a lawyer. I thought I'd be great at it. And I still think I would. But I started looking at how much money it would cost. And, we talk about return on investment in terms of properties, but I was looking at the return on investment if I was going to pay for all this schooling to get there, all the time that it would take to be a lawyer. And then I decided maybe this isn't really going to be the best option for me. So my brother was working for an architect who was also a builder as well. So my brother was doing drafting, architecture work, build outs, managing projects. So when I got out of college, I had a job with this architect, essentially doing the same thing, managing projects and doing the actual labor myself. Soon after that, this architect we were working for, he actually went belly up, and he went to jail for identity theft because he was using another architect's stamp. So where I had a nice job where I was working for this guy, all of a sudden, I had been working for 2 months and wasn't going to receive a paycheck for it. So at that point, my brother and I were like, all right, well, we always want to get into house flipping. Let's just start our own construction company and see where we could take it. So we started with a construction company. We built it to about a 6-man crew. We started working for investors who were flipping houses, and we kind of saw the ins and outs of that. And then we started raising our own capital, doing our own flips. Then flips turned into second-story addition flips. And then we started thinking about a higher quality product. And soon after that, we actually met our partner. There's 3 partners right now that make up Brightleaf Homes. And he had started Brightleaf Homes back in 2008, and his philosophy of how to build and the quality of product just really resonated with my brother and I, and we worked very well together. And we just thought if the 3 of us could join up together, we could really, really get something great going. So that's where we're at today with Brightleaf.
Well, let's talk about where you build the houses. And we do have an audience nationally, but certainly the people in Chicago might recognize the towns where you build.
Sure. Right now, in terms of our spec projects, we've built in Brookfield, LaGrange Park, Forest Park, Chicago. And then we also build custom homes for clients where we have 2 coming up in the Downers Grove area. But when we build on spec, we kind of look for a couple different area features, if you will. So we look for areas that have good schools. That's something that people always look for. And if you look at properties, you evaluate properties, homes that are in areas with good school districts definitely sell for a much higher price point. And then we also look for ease of access to public transportation. So like a metro station, we do a lot of building in Brookfield where in that town alone, there's 3 metro stations. And then we like to build in towns that are near like a city center. So LaGrange has a nice downtown area that people from Brookfield can access. We built in Forest Park that also has a nice little downtown area. And then these places there also have good close locations to highways, so highway access. So if people need to commute to work, it's pretty easy. So these general things you can find real nice areas that will demand a decent price tag on the homes you build.
Okay, so building on spec, I mean, I know the answer to that, but just explain for the listeners what that means and how that's financed.
Right, so that's where we build a home with our own funds or borrowed funds, if you will. We build it speculatively and expect someone to come buy it. So there's no client involved. It's just us putting up a house and then selling it. And then in terms of financing, we have a pool of private investors that we've raised funds to finance our projects. And then actually our most recent project was the first bank loan that we've got to finance that one too.
And what price point are these properties? Give us an idea so that the investors and developers listening can understand price per square foot, and then, agents or people who maybe are just understand price points, give us like our sale price, retail sale price, and the size of the house on average.
Sure. So price per square foot doesn't really work out exactly, but with that said, we have about 4 different models. So our smallest model, completed, delivered with a 2-car garage, is going to be about $315,000. And that's, when I say delivered, that's on top of an open lot. Then, let's say our mid model, which is around 2,200 square feet, you're looking at about $380,000. And then the largest model we build is 3,200 square feet, and that one comes standard with a finished basement. And that one we deliver for around $460,000.
Kind of taking notes here. And then on the flip side, you're financing these properties using your pool of money, basically cash. Obviously, this is much more difficult to get bank loans on because it's spec. Am I right in that assumption, Rick?
Yeah, we just started pursuing bank financing about 6 months ago, and banks are a little hesitant in financing builders. I mean, obviously after the crash and everything like that, but we've started a relationship, and we hope this is kind of our foot in the door to start pursuing more bank financing. But I believe it's important too to have that pool of private investors as well. So.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, on the flip side of building under speculation would be a client who has a piece of land already, or maybe a client who's looking for a piece of land, and I assume they could get construction financing because they're going to live there much easier than you're going to get for building the house on spec. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, absolutely. We work pretty closely with a bank around here that has a real simple, streamlined process where potential clients can get a construction loan, and those construction loans are as little as 10% down. And I've even received feedback from some of our clients that said that they had an easier time getting this construction loan than they had getting just a traditional loan, let's say on a traditional sale of a house.
Did they already own the lot, or are we talking, $460 plus $125 for the lot, as just throwing numbers out there, $580,000, 10% down on the entire package, including the land?
Yeah, so I mean, we've purchased lots for as little as $65,000. We've purchased lots for as much as $190,000, and it depends on the area, and it depends on what size home that you're going to build. But yeah, that's correct. When I was talking about the delivered price previously, that's just the house and that's plus the lot cost. So we've done scenarios where people come to us, they have a lot, they want us to build on that lot. And then there's also been scenarios where we've bought a lot, we're getting ready to build spec, and someone steps in, gets the construction loan, then buys the lot from us, and then the construction loan finances the project. And there's also another scenario where we have a lot of people coming to us. They love our homes. They love our philosophy. They love our experience. They want a bright leaf home. They want a particular area. So we go out and we hunt down a suitable lot for them as well.
So the construction loan will finance the lot cost also, inclusive, right?
Correct. That's generally a one closed loan then too, where they just go to the closing table, they purchase the lot, and they purchase the construction project. So it's pretty simple.
Is that something you would do if a real estate agent happened to have a client looking for something similar to that? You guys would do that and, still compensate that buyer's agent, quote unquote, for bringing that deal to the table?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do that pretty frequently too when agents are working with buyers that they're having trouble finding exactly what they want. And if they bring buyers to us, obviously they get the typical compensation just for bringing their buyers, and then they can kind of just hand off the buyers to us. They become our clients. We walk them through the entire construction process, hold their hand through it, and then we can build, whether it's completely custom or they can pick one of our home models, one of our floor plans, and then they have the ability to customize that with the finishes, with the layout, anything like that.
You talked about the experience, and I know we had talked about that as well when I came out to the properties, and really is, head and shoulders a difference. So can you describe the Bright Leaf experience for me, Rick?
Yeah, so we've been talking to people for years, and I believe if you talk to someone, they at least know somebody that had a terrible experience with a builder. And so we've determined a few things that can make a construction project stressful, and it's even traumatizing, where this is, perhaps the biggest investment of your life. This is a big deal. This is supposed to be a fun time where you get to build your own home. You get to customize it. It should be fun. It should be enjoyable. So we look to make that a stress-free, enjoyable process. That's simple for homeowners, because people, they think about new construction and it's a little bit intimidating. So we put systems in place to just help people. We walk them through, we hold their hand, we make it so that, like I said, they can enjoy it. So a couple of things that we've heard from people of how builds have gone bad is, number one, it's projects running over a timeline where builders don't have it all the way together. They don't have their subcontractor scheduled. They don't have strong relationships with the subcontractors that aren't showing up. They're not well organized. And so when somebody's promised a certain deadline, it goes way over. And then, as you know, for someone when they're transitioning households, even a delayed close can create a bunch of issues when, maybe someone sold their house. They have to be out of their house. They have to find temporary housing. Maybe they got to find temporary housing for their pets. It's a whole mess. So what we do is we ensure that we stick to a tight timeline. And so part of that is creating a schedule before we've even started the project. So all of our subcontractors have the schedule. Our clients have the schedule. We have the schedule. We know which trade needs to be where. And then we've also built these relationships with these subcontractors. So maybe when they are busy, they're probably going to prioritize us because they know that we pay them well, we pay on time, and that, we sit down with these subcontractors. We actually call them trade partners because we consider them partners of us in the build process. We sit down with them, once a year, and we can show them, hey, we're going to build X amount of houses. So you're going to gross X amount of dollars just from working for us. And then another thing is projects running over budget. So one thing we do is we have a pre-construction services agreement phase, and this is where we nail down precisely what a project is going to cost for a client. So if they want any extras, any upgrades, anything like that, we walk them through what's included in the home, and they get to kind of pick exactly what they want. And if they want things priced out, we price it then. So then throughout the process, there's not surprise change orders, and we get to the end of the project, we hand them a bill, and they're just shocked. And then another thing that we've heard from people is it's just poor communication. So one way that we remedy that is we have a client online portal that keeps them in the loop about their project. So with this, they can view schedule. They can view daily updates, and that includes job logs. That includes job pictures. So they don't even have to be at the job site to know that there's progress being made on their project. They can see it. We certainly encourage our clients to stop by and check it out as well. But if they don't have the time, if they're busy, they always know what's going on. Then in the system too, they can view and approve any upgrades that they do decide, if they do decide those after our pre-construction agreement during the project. If they change their mind, we have it in the system. They approve it. So there's no surprise. They sign off on it in the system. There's no he said, she said, anything like that. So, and then all of our selections, we have selection packages for our clients to pick from. So they select all their materials within our system. And again, there's no confusion as, hey, maybe you picked this, maybe you didn't. It's all there, right there in the system for everybody to see.
Yeah, and this is like what I was talking about with a well thought out process. I'm sure for anybody listening, you can only imagine as we start talking about the actual home itself, that the same level of thought that was put into just the client interaction there by itself is also going to be evident as well, you know, in the home's construction. About how many of these have you guys done to develop this system, Rick?
So that's been probably over a dozen homes. So we, like you said, it's systems and processes. So the only way to leverage your strength, the only way to leverage your time is to build a system that you can uniformly follow and execute on. So we're not just figuring out things as we go along. We have a plan that we stick to, and then that plan we take and we look to constantly improve on and make better and better.
Is there a goal of a certain number of houses per year or a capacity that you feel where, hey, if you do X number, you know, doing any more than that, some of the experience is going to break down? Have you guys thought about maybe what the limitation is to the quantity as far as just focusing on the quality, you know, or how ambitious do you guys feel like that capacity might be for the team currently?
Yeah. So touching on what you said, there reaches a point when there's three of us right now, and we have an administrative assistant as well. And right now, you know, we have the capacity to build at least 6 homes at once. And that will allow us to maintain the same tight construction schedules, tight management, and the quality that is paramount to the homes that we build. And then beyond that, if we do grow more than that, what we do is we have systems in place for that. So maybe the first next step would be to hire an additional project manager. So with growth, then you have to adapt. You adapt your systems and processes to the capacity at which they have to run at.
So let's dive into the actual home itself, Rick. I don't even know where to begin with the right question. So I'm just going to open the floor up and have you describe, you know, the best we can using words on an audio like we're doing right here, but describe why a green high-performance home is something, you know, you sold me on it. I mean, I got to have one of these at some point in the future. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but I have to have one now after seeing the experience and hearing it myself. So just describe that entire, you know, the entire build and construction, if you could, for us.
Okay, so when people ask me about this, the first thing that I want to start with, the easiest thing for people to wrap their heads around is the benefits. What can this home do for you? So these are, we call them high performance, we call them green homes. The first thing is it's going to lower your ownership costs. So there's lower utility bills in a home like this because it's so energy efficient. We have water sense faucets, so you're going to have the same performance out of your shower heads and your sink faucets, but you're going to be using less water, you're going to be using less electricity, you're going to be using less gas. And then these houses, how they're built to be pretty low on maintenance, and they're built to last a long time. So I mean, if people are just looking at a price tag of a house, you need to consider the monthly cost to own a house. So it's not just the mortgage payment, it's ownership cost. Another thing that these homes do is they provide a healthier home for your family to live and breathe in. I think you and I talked about this. Even if you're not in your home at all, you're still spending about half your life in that house just sleeping. So you're breathing in air, and you want to have good indoor air quality in your house. So we do things like build with low VOC paints and finishes. There's proper ventilation in this house. There's also moisture protection systems throughout the house, from the roof to the basement, so that there's no moisture intrusion getting in this house, going behind the walls, and then having potential mold issues, things like that. And then every single home that we build, we build a radon mitigation system into the home regardless. We don't test it before we build the home, but I believe in Illinois, 1 in 3 homes has high levels of radon gas, and radon is the second highest cause of lung cancer just after smoking. So it's important for the house to be healthy as well. It's also built to be a more comfortable home. So it's energy efficient. You're going to save all this money on your energy bills, but you're not sacrificing anything. You're actually buying a house that's going to be more comfortable. So there's no drafty rooms, no cold areas, no getting out the space heater because one room is colder than the other. It's built from the basement to the first floor to the second floor. Each story of the house, there's really no temperature gradient. So it's built to be just much more comfortable to live in, nice even temperature. And then, maybe not everybody's concerned about this, but buying one of these homes is an instant way to reduce your carbon footprint. It's a home that's built sustainably with green building materials, and just the way that we build these homes are specifically designed to use less materials and produce less construction waste. For example, we build them on 2-foot modules. So we'll use full sheets of plywood instead of, having like a 19-foot width on something where you're just having a cut off of plywood that's just going to end up in a landfill anyway. And then beyond that, everything that we can on site, we recycle. All of our trade partners, our subcontractors on site are required to break down any packaging, any boxing, and put that in recycling. And I mean, even any home improvement project, if you've even seen it, and just the amount of boxing and amount of packaging is just astonishing, just for a light fixture, for faucets, anything like that. And then these homes, they're built to give their owners peace of mind. So what I say is, this is a home that you get to move into and just enjoy it. You don't have to think about maintenance. You don't have to worry about anything. These, generally a new construction home is probably built just to code. So it's just passing minimum local code, which I guess if you think about it, that's like getting a D on a test. You're just passing. Where these homes are built way beyond code. And it's not just a municipal inspector verifying this. They're verified by nationally recognized certifications. That's the EPA Energy Star, the DOE Zero Energy Ready certification, and there's the EPA Indoor Air Plus that certifies it that it is a healthier home to live and breathe in. And then I think I was showing you this in our basements. We have a fully integrated water protection system. So you move into one of these homes, you're not waking up on a rainy night and hoping that there's not water getting in your basement. There's no way water's ever going to get into your basement.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the cool thing too. So I show up, we're looking at the house. You first walk in and it's like any other open style architecture house with the kitchen in the back there. But then, we go downstairs and there's like, first of all, from my perspective, right, I'm gonna speak from a little bit of ignorance here. There's this teeny tiny, small, little itty bitty heating system in there.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's a little teeny tiny furnace. So these homes have, the one that you saw, it's about a 2,200 square foot home. This has a 40,000 BTU furnace, which is pretty much the smallest one you can buy on the market. and that size furnace is even too large for this house. And you'll see even homes this size. And when I say 2,200 square feet, that's above grade. That's plus a full basement with 8-foot ceilings. So essentially it's over 3,000 square feet with a little small furnace on it just because of how energy efficient the home is. And then you even see these other homes, maybe that size, where they have a furnace in the basement and then they'll have another heating system in the attic. So just to kind of keep up with the house, since the envelope of the home is so leaky in terms of air infiltration, low levels of insulation. And then what's crazy about that too is you have a furnace in the attic in the winter. You have the furnace in a freezing cold area that's trying to heat up, and you're just burning up gas trying to heat your home.
Yeah, so even a high efficiency, furnace heater is not necessarily just because of the amount of or lack of efficiency in the older structures. It was mind blowing to me. I mean, that's just a simple observation. I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, there's no way these people got to be complaining. I did some research and everybody's saying wonderful things who actually is living in these houses. So, it's evidence of the thought out, higher technology, top to bottom experience of being in a high performance home. And then one of the other things too that you remarked and you pointed out to me, because a lot of people would say, it's too tight. A home has to breathe in order to get some fresh air in there. And you said there was some kind of system that tests and puts fresh air in, something along those lines, right, Rick?
Yeah, it's a mechanical fresh air intake. Like, for example, when the bath fans go on and draw air out of the house, there's a computer within this system that tells the fresh air intake to draw fresh air into the house. So there's always fresh air cycling through the home. And yes, the house is tight. It's a tight envelope throughout the house to make it energy efficient, but there's still fresh air in a measured, controlled amount going through the house. So you can have fresh air and you can also have an extremely energy efficient home as well.
And then another thing that I thought was interesting as we went through the tour, you had some display pieces set up, right? So that we could actually see the waterproofing system that was attached to the outside of the house, which is barely visible above the dirt and the grass line. And I'm like a fix and flip rehabber. So I've had to deal with water issues in basements in Philadelphia, in Chicago. It's just like caused so many issues. And so I guess I understand the value of that. And when I see that, I think to myself, oh my gosh, could you imagine digging down around the side of the foundation, putting on this like plastic corrugated, egg crate style sealant system, which creates a space for the water to actually channel down into a below foundation, there's a pump down there, right, Rick? That would actually remove the water.
It goes down to the drain tile system, which then gets pumped out to the back of the house. So it keeps any moisture away from the house foundation wall.
I mean, I was blown away, and then there was insulation, on top of that, on the basement. It's just mind-boggling to me that all these different things were thought out, including the wide architecture of the wide open plan. There's no beams in the basement. There's no beams on the second floor. It's a nice wide open plan. There's no load-bearing walls. And, it's cool. If you take a tour with a client or with Rick through the property, you can actually see the evidence of the style of construction and really understand what makes this a high-performance home and why these things are used. And then, of course, the additional value that's there. I mean, what would be your take on the long term? You must have thought about this, and I'm just kind of venturing off into the future a little bit, Rick. But,
Sure.
Let's fast forward 20 years. I mean, what is this house's position, in your opinion? And I know this is just a guess. No one can see the future. But what do you think that the value of a high-performance home like one of these Brightleaf homes would be in comparison to other homes of a similar era, built around the same 5-10 year period that just don't have that same level of thought, insulation, ability to perform?
So, I mean, some things are pretty certain. So building codes are going to evolve. They're going to demand homes that are more energy efficient, have higher levels of insulation, have higher performing windows and doors, things like that. So over time, building codes will change. And then homes that aren't built to these standards, you can only retrofit something so much. They're going to become less valuable to the market, and I mean, maybe even obsolete. Another thing that I believe we're fairly certain of is that utility costs are not going down. So especially, the larger home that you build down the line, these utility costs are going to increase. And for those who buy a high performance, energy efficient home, when let's say these costs spike, you're going to be protected from that, because your home is going to run efficiently, and you're paying minimal utility bills as it is already. I've heard people call this kind of like a niche or like a fad, but to me that this is the future of what housing is going to be. And this is the only way to build a house. And I think you touched on it before. It's building a home as a system. So it's not just calling it green. It's actually functioning well. And it's built to have less of an impact on the environment, be healthier for your family, and just the experience of living in this house is far more superior to any other homes on the market.
And aside, Rick, is there an option, or is there some additional filtration of the air or an air filter system that can be added or is already included in this style of construction?
Yeah, we already have a high performance furnace filter that's put into the home. And then, like I said, with the low VOC materials that we use, the moisture prevention methods, and then the amount of proper ventilation that is built into these homes pretty much should cover your base. But I mean, that what goes with that too is, let's say we have a home buyer that goes in there and puts in 5 terrariums and then elevates the moisture levels substantially, and they start growing mold on the inside of their house. Obviously with common sense, people need to take care of their homes as well. They're definitely built to have that high indoor air quality, but people have to do their part as well and not pollute their own homes.
Now, there's obviously certifications for this type of home. So if someone's listening in another part of the country and you guys aren't obviously available to build in Philadelphia or Florida or somewhere else, what certifications would your homes have, and what would they mean, so that somebody could ask that same question maybe of their builder, Rick?
So all of our homes are built to at least the EPA Energy Star standards. So what Energy Star requires from a home is it's saying that this home is at least 30% more energy efficient than a typical home. And then with the Energy Star, that also addresses those other things that we talked about: the superior comfort, the superior indoor air quality, the moisture protection methods, and the overall durability and just the longevity of the materials that we build into this house. And then we also have the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home certification. And so that goes beyond Energy Star, where a home with that certification is about 60% more energy efficient than a typical new construction home. And when they say zero energy ready, what that means is this home is so efficient that you could potentially offset all of your energy bills with renewable energy source. So like adding solar onto the house, essentially maybe your energy bills are down to zero with that. And then we also talked about the EPA Indoor Air Plus, where it's just, again, it's a home that's just much healthier for your family to live and breathe in. And that's a certification that tells you that this home has been designed and inspected and verified to prove that this is not just a claim that we're making.
So there's an agency, or there's somebody who comes in and verifies these things and provides certificates? I mean, how does that process work?
That's correct. There's inspections, and then there's certifications that will also transfer to the new home buyers. So when they go to sell their house, they don't have to just make these claims. They can say, this home actually has papers that certify all these great things about this house. And then, we have an energy rater come out. They run a blower door test to test the air tightness of the house, which translates to the energy efficiency. And they then rate the home, which is, it's called a HERS scale. So if you think of HERS almost as a miles per gallon rating for a house. So, a car has a certain amount of miles per gallon it's rated at. Our homes have a HERS rating. The home that you were in that had a HERS score of 40, where a typical new construction home has a score of, let's say, 100.
Is that HERS?
HERS.
So do they come out and do this afterwards? It's not something that would necessarily be like done, at the blueprint phase. They don't say, oh yeah, it's going to be,
we work with the rater just on our plans just to make sure that some of the measures that we're doing will qualify us for these certifications. So it's definitely a preemptive thing, and then they come back to verify as well.
Got it. You mentioned solar, which is not necessarily standard on every greenhouse. Solar, I hear stuff just in the media. You got Elon Musk's company doing solar out there. You're starting to see them pop up on roofs and out in the yards of the, large office parks and things of that nature. What's the real deal, Rick? Are the solar panels, have they progressed to a point to become efficient enough where they're worth that investment and installing them for the next 10 to 15 years? Or is it still kind of a wait and see if the technology is worth it before it becomes something that, be like an easy, no-brainer kind of decision?
Right. So first I want to address the technology is there, and it is a wonderful way to generate a renewable source of energy to utilize in your home. And solar technology, the prices have gone down quite a bit, and there currently is some federal and state level incentives to go solar. So it certainly will help offset monthly costs, but another component of that is working with the utility companies to properly compensate homeowners for the electricity that they're generating and essentially feeding back to the grid. So I'd say it is worth it now. The return on investment is not substantial, where to everybody it's a no-brainer. But at this point, I believe it definitely makes sense to go solar, and especially when we're building a new construction home and we can run the infrastructure at a moderate cost to facilitate solar throughout the house. I think it is definitely worth it.
Can you describe the requirements of the infrastructure that would be installed and what a challenge that might be for somebody who has existing property compared to new construction?
Yeah, so all of our homes on spec, we have built as solar ready. And in that sense, what that means is the framing of the roof is built in a way that it could support the weight of solar panels on top of it. And then we also run the conduit that's necessary to wire up the solar system to the electrical panel, which are simple measures to do when we're constructing a new home. And it's as simple as that, and where, who knows, maybe some old house that you have, it's not optimal for solar. Maybe you don't have a long enough run on your roof, and maybe you have to get an electrician in there to specifically run that conduit and do a retrofit that's going to cost you more money, and maybe you don't even have the room in your electrical panel to facilitate that. So all of the homes that we built are at least solar ready. And then the most recent home that we built, you and I actually took a tour of that one that's under construction right now. That's going to be our first home that will include a solar system with it.
Can you break it down like simple numbers and walk through maybe like energy bill comparisons on, I know this is tough because you didn't like have a standard house of 2,200 square feet with the exact, but do you have like, any kind of numbers so people could expect a certain kind of reduction?
Yeah, so I would say in the about 2,200 square foot house that you and I were in, the one that's completed, that home, you're probably going to be looking at energy bills is probably less than $100 a month. So you're looking at about less than $1,200 a year, and that's utility bills. So that's gas, that's electricity, that's water as well. Where I believe a typical home of that size, you're probably going to be looking around $3,000.
At least, yeah.
We had one of our homeowners track their energy usage. They came from a home that was, I believe, about 1,800 square feet total. That's with the basement. And then they moved into a new Brightleaf home that, was about 3,000 square foot, including the basement. So they moved into a house that had 50+% more space, and their yearly utility savings were more than 60%. So they actually allowed us to look at their old energy bills, and we made a spreadsheet of that. And we've also been actively tracking the utility usage of our other homes so that we can actually show people, provide them real statistics on how these homes save money, because, you know, it's beyond me just saying it. It's beyond the certifications. You know, it's proof indeed that these homes are what we say they are.
Were there any other items on the green construction, new construction, and what we talked about so far before I get to our closing questions here?
I think that's about it. There's a lot of ground to cover. I think we touched about a lot of it.
I'm going to let you share contact information in a minute, but first I have 3 final questions I want to ask. And the first of those 3, Rick, is who would you consider the most successful real estate investor or developer, and why? And it can be somebody that you know personally, know of publicly and respect, or they can be dead, they can be alive.
So this is a real estate investor that I've known for a while. And when my brother and I had our construction company, we actually did work for him. So he owns millions of dollars worth of apartment buildings throughout the western suburbs. And his father had investment properties. They're all buy and hold rentals. And, you know, he started with his father, and then he built up from just, you know, renting out houses, renting out a couple small multi-units to just large apartment buildings. And to me, what I really respect about this guy is we watched just how organized he was, the systems that he had in place where he didn't even have a large staff, but he was able to cover so much ground because everything had a system, it had a process, and all the thinking was done beforehand so that things could just run smoothly. And it's a little different, obviously, from what I do, but again, that those systems, those processes, that kind of component can translate. Whatever business you're in, those need to be set up, those need to be there. So like I said, you can leverage your time and run efficiently.
2 or 3 life-changing books, either real estate, business, or mindset and success related, Rick.
I love the book Getting Things Done by David Allen, and it's just, if you've ever owned your own business, you've ever been an entrepreneur, just trying to figure out how to navigate and systematically just hack through your daily to-do list and all the things that, you know, you have to do that you have no idea where to even begin. It's a nice system that you can put into place to just literally get things done. Another one is Mastering Your Time. So I'm huge on systems, processes, and efficiency, and that's a book by Brian Tracy of just how to spend your time efficiently and just get the most out of every day. Because as you know, as an entrepreneur, someone that owns a business, time is the most precious resource that we have. And it's something that you can never get back once it's gone. So you need to be real smart about that and use it in the best way possible. And currently I'm reading The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller. And this book, I'm maybe about halfway through. And again, one thing I love about this book is just talking about the systems that he puts into place to run his real estate empire. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's one that shows up often on the episodes. The other 2 are first. I'm going to forget those words. I think I might have Getting Things Done at my office in Philadelphia, which I'm not at.
Yeah, that's a good one. And like I said, everything I do, everything in life, we build efficient homes. We have an efficient construction process. I like to be efficient with my time and get as much done as I can so I can actually have a life in addition to having a business as well.
Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, I catch myself using a cheesy acronym oftentimes throughout the day, and that's WIN, W-I-N, what's important now. And that's really when I answer that question or I remember to ask you, it's like, hey, what's important now? Sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a thank you note, sometimes it's recording a podcast episode. But, you know, if I can stay focused on that most important thing for me and keep that time investment, you know, rocking and rolling, definitely makes things a lot easier.
It's that prioritization that's just of the utmost most importance, where to spend your time, where to spend your focus. And I mean, that's the key to it all.
You can be busy and not getting a lot done, as a business owner. So it's critical. Rick, what jewel of wisdom would you share with your 18-year-old self?
I would share to just read, which is something that I just kind of put on the back burner. Even, in high school and college, I would read just whatever I had to, and that would be it. And we touched upon it, earlier. It's read so you could be an expert and you can know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. So that would absolutely be it. Spend the time. Make it a priority.
Well said. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, more information about the company, would you like to share some contact information, Rick?
Sure. Our website is www.mybrightleafhome.com. You can find us there. My email is rick@mybrightleafhome.com. And people, whether they're interested in buying a green home or they're agents that have clients, or they're anybody that just has any questions about new construction, I'm more than happy to talk with people and share any knowledge I have. People can give me a call, 630-254-9745.
Cool. Well, appreciate you giving up your valuable time and coming on the show here, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. I had a blast. Appreciate it, Dan.
Nice. And thank you for tuning in to this episode of the REI Diamond Show. Are you receiving the new episode notifications by email? If you'd like to, you can sign up at www.reidiamonds.com. I'll even send you my report titled 7 Sources of Off-Market Deals. The website again is www.reidiamonds.com. Thanks again for listening. Dan Breslin here. I'll catch you next time. Remember, here at the REI Diamond Show, we're dedicated to increasing and protecting your net worth.
Thanks for listening to the REI Diamond Interview. To receive the REI Diamonds newsletter and interview monthly, sign up now at www.reidiamonds.com.